Greetings, Mishful Shiffies and Shiffle Whippy Dippies. I'm interested in making a short video here to document a modification I did on my 1979 Suitcase Rhodes, which I repaired. A fairly extensive amount of work needed to be done. The preamplifier had to be rebuilt, and I also went ahead and had both of the Janus amp channels recapped. It needed a new LED power switch in the Janus amp, it needed a new fuse holder, and it needed a new 5-pin DIN plug which goes to the preamp. All of that was successful. Here's a look at the Janus amp installed in the piano. You know, it comes in from the side of the suitcase. Everything is cool. These two big blue cans. Top amp channel, bottom amp channel board, and then down here on the bottom, if you can see here, get out of the way so that the light can get in. The bottom board down there had to also be replaced. That's the power supply for the preamp. So there's a little, I can't get my hand down because it blocks the light, but that little circuit board replaces the one that was there that had some power regulators and some caps on it, and that provides plus 15 and negative 15 volts for the preamp that was rebuilt. So you don't want to rebuild your preamp and then have a crappy broken power supply on the Janus amp. So I had to replace it, and it's mounted to the original circuit board that was there in that place. But all of this was successful. Water under the bridge, so now this Rhodes is working fine. And probably you know what they look like. Here's, you know, the Rhodes, and the baffle in the front is pulled off. And you can see that I got two brand new Jensen 12-inch mod speakers. These are 8 ohms. And then the speakers that are in the baffle here, which is pulled off. These two have been replaced, but these aren't new. These are Roland's. They came out of my Roland Cube 60 amps. They're really old. They're from the mid-80s, but you know, they're okay. And I didn't feel like buying two new speakers for the front baffles, but the reason being is that in this particular DIN, this Rhodes ends up having to be pushed up against the wall. So the only space that we've got is here, so it's pushed up necessarily against this pine paneling, which creates an issue because when you turn the amp on, the speakers in the front baffle obviously go straight into the wall, which is not good. These speakers are going into the wall, so I came up with a solution to this. And also because these are Roland Cube amp old speakers that are not that great, but these Jensens are brand new in the front baffle. So what I did was installed a modification, which you can see is here. There's this plate, and it's mounted from the inside of the front baffle in a hole that was cut to let air circulate to the Janus amp. Now the light is not real clear, so I'm only getting light on the bottom, but what this plate is two Switchcraft 13A 1/4-inch jacks, and they're wired up with all of this to the speaker wiring harness. And the way that they're wired is, if you go into the front of the piano, which will be here is your lovely suitcase. If I come down here, and here's this hole that was cut so that that amp can breathe, well, you can see I got a metal plate mounted there, and there are these 2 1/4-inch jacks. They're Switchcraft switching circuits, and they're hooked into the speaker wiring harness so that if the piano is pushed up against the wall and you don't want to use those 2 Roland front speakers, if you plug a speaker into one of these jacks, it will disable the speaker in the front baffle and send the signal instead to your 1/4-inch plug. So you can plug any 2 speakers into these jacks and it will disable the speakers in the front baffle that are up against the wall. So you will have your 2 speakers playing in your front baffle, and then you will have speakers that you can place wherever you want because the piano is up against the wall. So I find this to be, I think, a very good solution here. And what I'm going to do is plug in 2 external speakers into these jacks, which will disable the front speakers so that I'll get the brand new Jensen mod in the front baffle, the brand new Jensen mod here. This is both channels of the amp, and then this speaker will go, I'll have this one and I'll have this one. All will be on, and you can place these 2 external speakers wherever you want in the room and not be bound by these 2 goobers that are in this front baffle that are pushed up against the wall. So I'm going to set the camera down so that I can put this front baffle back in the piano just for a moment. Alright, so we're going to lift the baffle up, stick it in. Alright, pop it in. So the baffle is now back in the piano, and now I'm going to pick the piano up and lift it back up against the wall, which in this house necessarily is where it has to be because we don't have space for it room anywhere else. So the piano goes here.